I had notes as I was thinking about episode 4 from last week because we kept saying, why isn't this one memorable? Why isn't this one, I don't know, like standing out or like it was enjoyable, right? We both enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would say so.
But, and this is true for our episode today too, one of the things that I don't think we liked as much is we don't get any Henry except for the flashback.
Okay, I was 100% thinking that when I was watching this week's episode and when I was editing last week's podcast recording. I was like, where's my Henry at?
Yeah, and then the last week there was no psychic recap. Like Sean didn't do his big psychic rundown because remember he kept blaming it on Lassiter, and Chief had questions, and
Oh, yeah.
so the characters knew the story better themselves. Sean didn't do his psychic breakdown, so like that was missing, and I don't think we liked it as much.
That actually could be exactly it. I do think that the more Henry gets into the episodes, the happier I am. Because I just love all of those dynamics.
Yeah, and we bring in other characters, and we have other like recurring characters.
Yeah.
I feel like right now it's like it's all story, and I want to say starting with this week in episode 5 that we're going to talk about, I think especially Lassie, he's got some really good Sean Lassie chemistry going, and there's a good bit like I felt it too with Lassie and Jules, like they're like congealing into like a unit.
Yeah.
Congealing. I don't think that's the word I mean, but it works.
They had to get that I'm not comfortable with inner office romances out of the way, and it just became easier.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's where I stand, and that's my theory going forward.
I like it. We should probably start our podcast.
Showtime.
This is
To the Blueberry!
Every time Kaylee screams that, it just makes me laugh because she throws her hands in the air. I wish you guys could see it. I'm Alexis. I am a Gus. And I'm here with my partner in crime, Kaylee. She is a Sean.
So,
And
Sean.
we are doing a psych rewatch podcast that we call To the Blueberry. We're going to recap our episodes, talk about some of our favorite moments, share some of our favorite quotes, and hopefully find a pineapple in every episode. Although we did agree that we would not Google, we would find.
So far, we haven't Googled, but I mean, I don't know. Some of these might get real obscure. That is not the case this week, but some of them may be real
No.
obscure.
We've got a real obvious pineapple this week, but we'll get there.
Ooh, what's our episode title?
So we're on season 1, episode 5. The episode title is 9 Lives.
I will say, over at the Psychologists Are In podcast with Maggie Lawson and Tim Amundsen, when they talked about this episode, I believe they actually got to speak to the writer of the episode, who was like brought on as a writer, basically starting now. And he just had like this wacky idea. And Rode actually had some notes.
What a surprise.
He was like, we gotta carry around this cat the whole episode? I mean, there were logistical concerns that had not been well thought out because it's such a fun concept. But, I mean, we'll get there.
But the episode opens, as most of them do, with a flashback to 1986.
Oh, I thought it said 1985 this time.
Really?
That's what I thought.
Dang it, man. You know I'm not good with these numbers. I have gotten every one wrong so far.
No.
Just for the record.
You've got one wrong.
No, I've gotten all of them wrong. I got it wrong last week. I was re-listening while I was editing, and I think I added out the part that I obviously did wrong. But earlier on in the episode, I was like, it's $3.5 million. And then later on, it was $3.6 million.
Oh, I remember you saying 3.6.
So I made my list, and I checked it twice, and it was still wrong. So don't listen to numbers when it comes to me, everyone.
Oh.
Although I was the math person.
Speaking of numbers, and yet I've worked in financial administration so many times. What's up with that? But there is a numbers reference. Like, I'm just gonna spoil this. There's a pop culture reference to the show Numbers, which I also love because who doesn't love a David Krumholtz moment?
Girl, that right. Nope, I'm totally there with you. I definitely picked that up, and I loved. He ended up zooming in on the board that he was writing on because it said vortex bracket 0, 0 bracket. And, like, the math nerd in me was like, is he trying to be funny, saying the vortex is the center of the graph? Because 0, 0 would be, x0, y0.
It's the meeting point.
The middle of the graph. And I'm like, yeah, that's the vortex, but...
Did you hear the music change at that point? Like, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but I'm pretty sure it was like numbers-inspired arrangement right there. Back to our recap, and we're starting in, I guess, 1985 or 6. Honestly, it could be either at this point.
I'm not really worried. It was sometime in the 80s.
Yeah, we're those girls.
It's when neither Kaylee nor I were alive.
And I said, this is the worst fake hair piece of Henry's. Like, the brushed back so severely, it's by far the worst look we've seen so far.
They're eating cereal.
Outside at a picnic table.
Right, outside. And they're not Fruit Loops because they don't have the rights to Fruit Loops, but it's something like that. And Lil Sean number 3, still Lil Sean number 3, is upset because the box of cereal didn't have a mood ring in it like it was supposed to.
Yeah, he got all the way to the bottom. And he was like, this is a crime!
Can't you just haul them in for questioning and lay in on them a little? And then Henry was like, well, you can call and you can complain and the secretary can take your complaint and throw it in the trash can.
Also, he was being very rude about administrative professionals right there, and I don't enjoy that. So Henry needs to calm down and stop biasing his son.
I mean, in 1986, like, I don't know that there was an option to forward to someone's voicemail.
Also, if you call in acting rude like Henry, yeah, I'm gonna throw that in the trash.
Yeah, probably. But Henry wants Sean to use the skills that Henry has taught him to outsmart Big Cereal, if you will.
Big cereal. Yes, queen.
And he ends up using the saying, all you gotta do is turn something upside down to make it right side up, and you've got your prize. That was what Henry said to Lil Sean number 3, and I was so cute. And then he flipped over the new cereal box.
That exact quote comes back into play later.
Oh my gosh. The ice cream man is outside.
Do we need to pause?
I can hear the music coming.
In my cousin's neighborhood, the ice cream guy had a remix.
Nice!
No, it was code. He also sold other things out of that truck.
Bum, 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 ice cream man. Okay.
It's that hustle culture, man.
I don't know where we were at with the recap. Oh, it comes back later in the episode.
So after the good lesson, that comes back the quote that we hear exactly later. What is the action of the lesson? I guess.
Oh, well, what they end up doing is they end up flipping over the cereal box of the new box of cereal because the mood ring that was at the bottom of the box is now at the top of the box. And so he was able to just grab his mood ring and walk away with it.
Oh, actually, he said, thanks, Dad. And then it looks like Henry's like pulling it away.
Yeah.
And you're not sure if he's going to get it or not. All right, now, cut to modern day / early aughts Santa Barbara. And I said, this is a West Wing reference. Dooley Hill was on the West Wing, and they're doing a walk and talk, which Aaron Sorkin is known for, the West Wing walk and talks.
Oh.
And yeah, and Sean is saying, we should do this more often. And Gus is like, what, eat and jog? And I was like, you mean walk and talk, bruh. You know you do. So that's the first reference I got. I just wanted to point that out. I don't know if we want to sparkle, dazzle, and stretch. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's good. Sean was like, we don't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Can't we just check in with each other as men?
You really wanna know how I am, says Gus. It's like, yeah, man, of course.
This is where Gus says, I'm burnout. We've been on back-to-back cases. I'm still a pharmaceutical salesman. Because we decided a few episodes we were going to sing that.
Pharmaceutical.
There it is. And he was like, no more cases. No more cases. No more work. I need a break.
And Sean readily agrees.
Oh, yes.
And Gus is like, wow, I was actually like, hesitating to bring this up with you. That's so good. And that's when we get our first Gus don't be. And he just says a silly goose.
Yeah.
So it's don't be a silly goose.
But that's when Sean pulls out the police scanner, which is a walkie-talkie. Now, I might be ignorant, but can civilians get walkie police scanners?
I know that in some states it's easier to get police scanners or more strictly legal than other states. I don't know in what forms those come in.
Yeah, I have seen people with police scanners before, but they've always been more like CB radios and less like walkie-talkies. And so I was like, how does he have a walkie? But I guess Henry might still have one.
Right. Oh, maybe. Or if you can just get one that hits the right frequency.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But
Yeah.
if anybody is in on police scanners or police officers and they want to write in and explain this to us, I would appreciate it. That's
Oh, snap. Yeah.
to the Blueberry Podcast at gmail.com. Let us know. I'd appreciate it. We're definitely going to not get this in time for our next episode, but we can get it like in 4 to 5 episodes from now.
Speaking of, officially dropping episode 1 today on all platforms.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the episode. Yes, let us know about police scanners. We end up at the crime scene because Sean had been listening to his walkie-talkie police scanner and knew where to find a dead body.
Yeah. He's like, and we're here, and we're just visiting. We're just here for a visit, not on a case. We're just going to pop in and say hi. And Gus is like, we can't just walk into a crime scene to say hi and have a conversation.
That's when Sean introduces Gus to Buzz McNabb.
McNabb!
I love me some Buzz McNabb, and I'm so happy about how much he is in this episode.
Yes, I was looking up stuff about this episode, and his profile picture on IMDb is like a young picture of him, but he looks like a Ryan Murphy dream boy from like literally anything that Ryan Murphy's ever done. He loves tall, beautiful men with dark hair, and that's very much
Yes, I agree with you. Little baby Buzz McNabb is quite handsome, and
looking trim.
Yeah, somebody's met their wedding weight.
I've got 5 more pounds, but I've still got a month.
They're so cute. But not only does Gus say, I don't talk to people named Buzz, but then Buzz calls Gus Matt.
Well, he doesn't remember his name. They've barely met. Because Sean is like a staple at the police department. Yeah, I just wrote, Gus is kind of rude. Don't be rude.
That's what he said. I don't talk to people named Buzz. And I'm like, Gus, come on. You gotta love you some Buzz McNabb. And he does. He'll learn to love Buzz McNabb. But they end up kind of sneaking into the crime scene by telling Buzz that they picked up Lassiter's coffee.
Oh, that's great. He actually asked me to get his coffee. And I was like, again, Lassiter, he's not your gopher.
And that comes back. Again, I know I say that a lot, but it's important to notice that.
And the 3 creams, 4 sugars comes up again and again and again. And he's like, he's so particular about his coffee. Don't you sip his coffee? You don't try Lassiter's coffee? He's so particular. No cream, no sugar. That's 3 creams, 4 sugars. Yeah, it is. Also, the 3 and 4 keeps coming up in different ways because cut to the next scene after Gus and Sean are like sneaking into the apartment
which they do by throwing away the coffee, by the way.
Yeah. Everybody looks away, they throw away the coffee, run into the building. But we open in the apartment on Lassie and Jules, and they're, doing their police code thing again, and I actually wrote it down. It's at 11:44.
I wrote down 11:44 this time, too, because I've been trying to figure out how to take shorthand notes. And so instead of having to write suicide every time, I could write 11:44.
Also, we should say, top of this episode, huge trigger warning for, talk about suicide and,
That's true.
Humor, not so much at the expense of suicide, but just not acknowledging perhaps the weight of it, because this is an hour-long comedy.
Although, getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, I do feel like at the end of the episode, when they actually talk about the person who did happen to die by suicide, they talked about, I didn't see any signs, I didn't know there was anything wrong. And for a lot of people who struggle with suicidal ideations and the people around them, that's very, very normal. So anybody, if you are concerned, there is a text line that you can text. I think it's 711-711. You can immediately talk to somebody about your suicidal concerns or about your mental health issues. That's there to help. So I'm a huge proponent of taking care of each other and taking care of ourselves. So again, if anyone wants to talk about it,
it's 741-741. And you text home to 741-741. We're here for everything: anxiety, depression, suicide, school.
Good job. Thank you for looking that up, Kay. I think that's super important. I think we all need to be okay with that sometimes.
Yeah, just top of the episode. But they do say, before we learn, that they believe that the person, the death that they're dealing with in this apartment is a suicide victim, they refer to it as an 11:44. So you don't get the term suicide for a minute. They say 11:44, that's the third 11:44 in 4 months. like, is there something in the water? Like, there's a rash of these.
Very interesting. But Lassie's on his high horse and is like, I don't want to make any mistakes with this. And then immediately we cut to a scene tech who is blowing into an evidence
He's a forensic guy, yeah. He's supposed to be forensically collecting evidence. He's like, hey, blowy. But
hey, blowy. That's what he calls it.
Sean and Gus witness this, and Sean goes, clearly he doesn't need any more coffee.
So they are trying to figure out what's going on, and they end up following a forensics person into a new room.
When they see him, Gus goes, forensics, act natural.
Act natural.
So we get another act natural.
Them acting natural is like my favorite thing ever.
They just like pull Zoolander faces and hold still.
The forensics person is going through the cabinets and the refrigerator, and as soon as he opens the cabinet, Sean sees the red pepper flakes and realizes that's exactly what his Chinese food needs.
Oh, it's Thai, I believe. It's mee crab.
That's exactly what his Thai food needs.
He said mee crab so many times. I'm like, now I want Thai food.
When the forensic person opens up the refrigerator, they see a steak marinating. And Sean was like, why would somebody who was planning on, did he say offing himself? Or did he say killing himself or something?
He alludes to it. He's like, if you have plans to end your own life, like, why would you do this in advance thing, like marinate a steak?
Right. And I agree with that.
Well, this is the beginning of Sean's, like, future plans argument, and it's like, I don't think that necessarily holds water. It's like, just because you took your birth control pill at the start of the day doesn't mean by the end of the day, if you are a person who struggles with suicidal ideation, like, you wouldn't end up by the end of the day making a different choice. So it's like, you put a steak to marinate in the morning and things are too much by the end of the day, or, you know, what. So I'm like, I get where he's coming from, but I don't think it necessarily holds water.
I'm not going to lie, Kay. I thought you were going to say, just because you take your birth control in the morning, it doesn't mean you might want to get pregnant at the end of the day.
No, I'm sorry. I was referencing a movie where the girl's like, my sister did not commit suicide. She took her birth control pill today. Why would she do that if she wasn't going to see tomorrow? Like, that sort of thing.
But as soon as they point out the marinating steak, Gus goes, what? You want to eat that too? Also, just like putting it out there, marinating steak is a great idea. It makes it so much more tasty. For my meat-eating friends out there.
For her like, meat-eating friends out there.
That's not Kaylee. Some red wine, some spices, a little bit of garlic, maybe a little bit of like lemon juice.
I was going to say, something acidic feels like, chemistry-wise, a good choice.
Yep, it is. You always want to go salt, fat, acid. As much as that's like overused, it's the truth.
Like, girl, if you were sauteing my haunch, like, that would probably do pretty well. I always do that with you because you're like the most honest, like, omnivore I know. So they walk back into like the living room area of this apartment, and I forget what we're seeing here. I only know what happens when Gus starts making the eyebrow movement. So what happens before that?
The quote that I'm going to use at the end of the show for sure. But Lassie's very upset that they are at the crime scene. And they're looking around, and Lassie wants them to leave.
Oh, I remember what happened before Lassiter came up. The door latch was intact.
Oh, yeah.
And that pings off Sean's, like, details about, he's like, and this one I get a little bit more. He's like, why wouldn't you secure your space if you didn't want to be interrupted because you plan to do a thing? The police didn't have to bust the door in to get to the scene. Jules confirms it, and Lassiter says don't encourage him. But yeah, the door chain, the security chain is not broken. It's still there. So the guy didn't, like, lock his door fully. So Sean's like, I don't believe this is a person who took their life.
There were too many things, because he also noticed the grease mark on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Next to
I kind of thought it looked like a scuff mark, so I was like, that could indicate like a slight struggle, but because he says it's grease and it, like, nobody fights that, I was like, oh, I guess it just looks like a scuff. When Sean is getting the psychic vision about the grease on the floor, he like caresses and like wraps himself in Lassiter's leg. And I just wrote, there is going to be so much touching of Lassiter in this episode, because by the time I'm taking notes, I've already seen it once, and I'm like, wow, yeah, this really adds up. So I enjoy it.
He ends up saying that it was not a suicide, and Lassiter asks why or how he would know that. There's no evidence to the contrary. There's no witness. And that's when we see the little boy cat.
There is a witness. I'm going to want to talk to that cat when he's finished licking himself.
LBC is what I called him. Little boy cat.
And then Sean just goes, wow, I'm jealous. And it cuts. Scene cut.
That cuts to our opening number because they know that he knows that they're not telling the truth. Wait, he knows that they know that he's not telling the truth. There it is.
So then we get another walk and talk. They're getting back into the office, and Gus will not hold the cat. He's not about holding that cat. And Sean's carrying around this little sweet baby of a cat.
And Gus goes ahead and tells Sean that he believes it could be an 1144.
Yeah, let's just refer to it as an 1144.
I like that.
Yeah.
But Sean ends up saying, look at the weather outside. It's sunny and beautiful. And it's a lot less likely for 1144s to happen when the weather is beautiful, like it is in Santa Barbara.
Statistically, mild climates have, lower instances.
They were actually in Vancouver, and I was thinking about that while I was watching this episode today, because it gets cold in Vancouver.
Oh yeah. They have to like film at a certain time of year so that they can get these shots. Otherwise, you'd see people's breath all the time.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, they must have been very, very... I mean, for how many seasons they cut, they must have been very strategic about when they shot those episodes to make sure that they didn't end up in, like, normal Vancouver weather.
Well, I was going to say, at a certain point, they start taking trips, and, like, it's still supposed to be the Pacific Northwest, which it might technically be. Wait, where's Vancouver?
Vancouver's in British Columbia, which would be... It's just north of Oregon, Washington.
Right, so...
I'm so bad at U.S.
Okay, we're going to look, because I think that would technically still be the Pacific Northwest, but, like, north. Like,
yeah, super north.
While I look that up, Sean says...
If it was Vladivostok, we could talk. I don't know... Oh, no, Vladivostok. I don't know where Vladivostok is, but I'm going to guess, like, Russia,
Siberia?
Germany?
Yeah.
Siberia, cold, not the beautiful weathers of Santa Barbara. They're talking still about the 1144, and Gus was trying to prove his point, and Sean kind of agreed with him, but then said, there's just one thing that doesn't make sense. And he pulls his walkie-talkie scanner, like, out from his pants and said, how do you explain the other body? And I'm trying to figure out how Sean heard the walkie scanner, but Gus did not hear the walkie scanner, and we did not hear the walkie scanner. I'm just saying.
We hear it when he lifts it up, so apparently, like, yeah, like, his ear was trained on it, and he must have heard, like, a keyword to be like, aha, another body. So, I mean, earlier we got the 3 of these in 4 months, because the body we started with, the first 1144 we happen upon. That's the 3rd in 4 months. And all of a sudden, there's, like, a second one in, like, within a week, because he's been there at least 3 days, is what Joel said. There's a lot of 3 and 4s in this one.
I hadn't really picked up on that. But now that you're saying it, like, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, you're right. There are.
So clearly this is like, it feels like escalation. It feels like the time frames are getting shorter and shorter, because by Sean's reasoning, this is a serial killer. And so, like, being more spread out means he's being measured. And, like, now I'm going, like, full Criminal Minds right now. But...
No, you're 100% right. Everything is elevated. Also, Vancouver is considered the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, I just looked that up. It's above Seattle. It's like, yeah, it's just further up there. So...
But we're at a garage where this next 1144 happened. And Lassiter spills his coffee, because Sean did not give him the coffee that he said he was going to give him. And so Buzz didn't go give him a coffee. And so he had to go get it himself. And he was mad and he spilled it. And it was funny.
Yeah. And it's like really awkward. They're all like trying not to act like they just saw it. But everybody just saw it. And let's see. So there's a woman in the car. And they're saying that it looks like she 1144 via carbon monoxide gas. There's a tube leading to like one of her windows. There's a note written in eyeliner, we'll find out, on the windshield. So it...
Did you happen to catch anything that note said?
No, and they don't reference it at all. It's just like,
Okay.
there is a note. So they're like, all signs are pointing to 1144. And Sean's playing psychic with Lassiter, and he's like, says something about the 3 creams, 4 sugars, because it's spilled on him. And Jules is like, how did you know that? Do you really take 3 sugars and 4 creams?
Carly, that's a heart attack waiting to happen. Sean calls him Carly, and I love
Oh,
that.
I missed that. Ew, I hate it.
Carly, Oh, I love it. I love it.
Oh, wow. So Sean wants a closer look at the note unobserved, so he just kind of like lets the cat pop itself into the car. And
Because Little Boy Cat can deduce things by spending time near the 1144, which Little Boy Cat does by peeing on the woman's dry cleaning in the back of her car.
yeah. And Sean's little bit of argument here is like, yeah, she decided to do this, but stopped to pick up her dry cleaning first. Like, sus? But Gus is like being nebby at the back of the car where the forensics guy is about to measure the exhaust at the tailpipe. He's just like leering, and he's like, so what's he doing here? Oh yeah, measuring that exhaust.
When they turn on the car to measure the exhaust, metal music just starts blaring. Like someone had it on and very, very loud.
So that scene kind of just wraps up more or less there. And then we get back in the Blueberry.
And again, Sean is driving.
That's true. And he alludes to the fact that the cat may or may not have vomited when he was in the back seat. So he's riding shotgun and Gus is in the back.
Yep.
And we get this is a company car, Sean. And he keeps trying to give Sean the paper to put down so the cat's not on the seats because he has to return it in like new condition. And this is where Sean notices like a headline, and he hands the paper to Gus because it's our car 1144 victim. And it says, well, Gus first sees this advertisement that keeps coming back for some reason. It's like 70% off storm doors and windows, blah, 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 blah.
70% off all storm doors and window panes.
Oh, gosh. And the real headline is that she was a struggling actress, but she just landed this major role in a play. Why would she 1144? Like,
If she just got her big break.
right? Like, everything's turning around. And I don't know if it's like the theater company or something else, but there's the term dazzle and stretch, and Sean just kind of is like, dazzle and stretch. And then that scene ends.
That's what the name of the show was, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We're back at SBPD, and my dear sweet Buzz is asking Lassie for sex advice.
He's like, you're technically still married, right?
It was, are you trying to piss me off or something like
Yeah,
that?
it was exactly that. And he's like, no, see, on your wedding night, and Lassiter's face is killing me this whole time. Buzz is like, on your wedding night, did you feel any added pressure to perform?
Perform.
And I'm like, oh, Buzz, you perfect specimen of a man. Officer, I don't finish until you finish, is what I nicknamed him. Because you know, Buzz is just like the best.
They end up cutting to the chief's office, where Sean is in the chief's office with Gus and Little Boy Cat.
And he starts to put on a show for the chief, and Lassiter notices through the window. And I was just like, oh, we're getting that show.
He starts by meowing, like he's channeling Little Boy Cat.
And then the cat
And then-
meows. It was great.
Then the cat meows, and then he meows, and then Sean puts on his show, to which Gus finally points out that Sean is channeling Little Boy Cat, who is channeling Gloria, got a name this time, who was the 1144 from the car. But not only was Sean channeling Little Boy Cat and channeling Gloria, but he started making up this song and dance called Dazzle and Stretch.
A dazzle and a stretch.
Stretch.
And it gets weirdly.
Dazzle.
It's like oddly southern. But he starts to point out the newspaper with the dance, and Gus helps him point that out because it's like, what is he doing now? And there's this great, like, timpani roll, and he hands the paper to Lassiter to, like, point out what the important part is. And again, we get the 70% off all storm doors and windows. And it's just, like, the best, like, lead up to that joke with that intense timpani roll.
And then Sean, still channeling Little Boy Cat, still channeling Gloria, just reaches down and flips the paper over like it's no big deal. That, like, oh, I know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah.
So then they see the headline about their 1144 in the car, Gloria. Sean plops onto Lassie's lap, just getting real cozy. And I have so many feelings about it. Good, wonderful feelings about it. I just love how close they are in this scene.
Lassie ends up saying, even though she got her big break, she still could have 1144'd herself. And his way of explaining that is, all actresses are crazy. I know. I dated one in college. She had a nose ring.
Sorry, I just pointed to myself because I have a septum ring and I love it.
That made me think of you. I was like,
I am a Lassie fangirl. I won't apologize. Nope. So, we're cutting back to the psych office now, and this is where we get our whiteboard from the back, so it's a clear board, and Sean is putting all his evidence on it, and Gus is like, what are you doing? He's like, I saw this on numbers. It works there.
I see it on numbers all the time, and it seems to work for them.
And it's got this, like, great, like, pensive math guy music.
Sean and Gus, mostly Sean, realize that there's no pattern to how these people happen to be dying.
Yeah, like varied demographics and like varied modes of 1144. And it's like usually people pick one, but if you're trying to make it look, natural, different people would probably do different things.
And that's where flipping it upside down to make it right side up comes back into play. Because they decide to go back to the very first 1144 and try to figure out what happened there. Because maybe if they start from the beginning, they'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, and that's where we get our recurrence of that quote from the beginning from Henry, where he's like,
all you gotta do is turn something upside down to make it right side up, and then you've got your prize.
And at the end of that scene, right before we cut away, we get Sean, and there's the prize. So we're heading out of the office, and we're going to check out the first 1144's brother, because they were roommates, and he's listing the apartment.
His name is Wes Hildenbach.
It's Hildenbach on the IMDb, and I only know that because I was looking at that anyway.
Very good. I was Hildenbaching.
That's exactly how it sounds when they say it, so...
Yeah. At one point, Gus actually goes, Hildenbach? Like Hilton the first name and Bach the last name, but I digress. And they pretend to be quote-unquote partners trying to rent the apartment.
Yeah, it sort of happens like, I was just like, is there maybe too much queer baiting in this episode? But, like, I don't know. It sort of happens on accident because they are partners, and the guy just takes it that way, and then Sean runs with it. So, yeah. I feel like we can just accept that it came from not a crappy place. We're gonna go with that.
Good news. Shower for two.
Gus's face. He's like, the audacity. Like, I would ever shower with you, you slob.
They start talking to Hildenbach. Hildenbach finally tells them that he's getting rid of the place because he lost his brother. He doesn't say how he lost his brother. And you can tell that Hildenbach's kind of torn up about the fact that his brother isn't with him anymore. Sean ever so slightly starts asking for details and then quickly goes, oh, no, that's not appropriate. I shouldn't ask that. And that's when Hildenbach kind of breaks down and he said, yeah, he had a lot of problems, he had a lot of struggles, but he was doing better than me, and, things were looking up for him, and I didn't see anything coming, and that's when they kind of take the moment to recognize that people sometimes die by suicide for reasons that we can't explain. So I'm very proud of them for taking that step.
Yeah.
But Sean ends up grabbing...
Yeah, when he was checking out the bathroom, he took the opportunity...
Shower for two.
He took the opportunity to snag a piece of mail, and in the car, he opens it up, which is a felony, but the person's dead, so I don't know where that line falls, but it's a phone bill, and he can see that, like, he was calling a 1-800-stress line a lot, and Sean's gut instinct is that this is going to be the link. This is going to be the pattern. Like, if we check the other phone lines of the other victims, we're going to find this cropping up. So somehow it's connected to this.
Gus said, "That's what stressed guys do. They call a stress line. I bet a hungry guy calls a pizza place."
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I was super stressed and I got myself a therapist. We are not sponsored by BetterHelp, but I highly recommend it. There's also Talkspace, and they have affordable options for people who would have trouble affording therapy. It's a very good option because it's very hard to get in with someone in person these days, as I found. So just wanted to say that.
I think that all counseling and therapy is a very good option, but it's worth putting out there that if you have tried a counselor and a therapist and it didn't click, it doesn't mean that therapy's not for you. It just means that maybe that therapist wasn't for you. So feel free to try them out, check them out. Take care of yourself. Take care of your brain.
Absolutely.
741-741.
BetterHelp. Okay, so then we get back to SBPD, and Sean is giving Jules the full psychic treatment. I sense it. It's something to do with this stress line, the other. And Jules says, "Why would I do this?" And Sean goes, "Someone say it's the hair." So that comes into play again. Lassiter comes up behind him, and he's like, "Really?"
When they finally walk away, Lassie looks over to Juliet and said, "We should probably follow up on that phone line."
Yeah, because Jules is like, that was a little too easy to kind of shut down their idea and make them go away. This is suspect. But now we go to the building where the stress line is, and Gus and Sean are standing in front of a door that, what does the door say? What is the sign?
Dial a psychic.
And Gus is like, "Did you rent office space? Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "Gus, don't be a crazy hooligan."
I rented a sign.
Opens the door, and this is where...
Pineapple hunt. Okay, so it wasn't really a hunt because the pineapple was literally sitting there with a bow on it.
A big red bow. So he grabs it, and he's like, "Let's go say hi to the neighbors." And they walk in, and they're like, "This is for you guys. For your new neighbors. We set up a 1-800 thingy."
And they end up meeting Terrence, who owns 1-800 Stress Line.
Runs it, yeah. Runs the nonprofit or whatever.
I need you to think about this for me. I need you to go into Future Psych. Think about the cult episode. Do you know what I'm talking about?
This is one of my fun facts. This guy is in 3 other episodes of Psych and the first Psych movie.
I recognized him from the cult episode. I was like, he's with the bloomer lady. I know he's in that episode.
There are so many character actors. Like, this episode is chock full, but this show is chock full of great, great character actors that you have seen in everything. Because we're going to meet another one here soon. Both Terrence and the guy that we meet soon and Lassiter were all in Supernatural eventually. I mean, the other guys had very small parts, but like, yeah, that was another fun fact. Like,
that's fascinating.
These guys that we meet in this episode, they're the type of character actors who have been in like episodes of everything. And I have another fun fact later on. So
when Sean walks in, he kind of expects everybody at 1-800 Stress Line to recognize him because he's a big psychic celebrity now.
And he starts rattling off his cases. He's like, "I'm head psychic for Santa Barbara Police Department. You may have heard about me with the McCallum murders." No.
No one had any idea who he was or that he was psychic. He ends up having to prove that he is a psychic, much like he did in the last episode. However, Terrence is like, "That's a great time to do that. Half of our phone lines are down because the phone lines are being worked on."
And every once in a while we get a shot out the window and you can see a guy up on a pole.
Foreshadowing.
So this guy sitting there, Rory, his name tag says, and he's another character actor that we see a lot. Also, so is Wes Hildenbach. He's another one of the guys that we're talking about here. They've all been like in everything. So Rory is sort of this goth punk looking boy with eyeliner, and I just wrote, he's got triangular blonde clown eyebrows, and it's very distracting. He's like, "Yeah, tell me something about myself, psychic."
And between the eyeliner and the rhyming dictionary that is sitting on his desk, Sean goes, "You're a poet." And he freaks out. And everyone starts applauding like it's such a big deal. Gus leans back and said, "Have you seen that guy's eyeliner?" And Sean goes,
Guy could be the drummer for The Cure.
"That's it. I rented a sign," is what I was reading. And I was like, that's not what he said.
Oh, shoot.
Another pop culture reference for you there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we love, especially The Cure was big in the 80s, so, like, we love the 80s references, especially.
Everyone's happy. Everything's good. Next scene, Lassiter is sitting on the beach, and Juliet walks up to him.
Yeah, it's file time. She's got a file full of people who work at the stress line because they're looking into it now because it is a pattern. We don't see it, but Lassiter says, an old friend. And it's like a rap sheet for someone who works at 1-800 stress line.
Rory, right?
Yeah, it ends up being Rory, but like I don't think we see that in that scene.
Are you sure?
I mean, I didn't see it.
I think we see his picture.
I don't remember seeing that.
I don't know. I've heard it both ways. So we end up with Gus at Dial a Psychic.
In the closet.
in the custodial closet.
Okay. This is another queer baiting moment. I was like, he's literally in the closet. They hang out in the closet together. What is happening?
But they have a little cat sign that says "hang in there,"
which Sean is putting up when he notices the telephone service schedule on the wall.
I'm not exactly... Oh, Gus said that his legs were tired from sitting on the bucket or something like that. And Sean said, "Do some push-ups. You can be like Clint Eastwood in Escape from Alcatraz. He was in the best shape of his life."
In that teeny tiny room.
I don't know Escape from Alcatraz because I am not a normal movie watcher person.
Normal? That's a dad movie. That's a Lassiter movie. We don't need to watch that movie.
I'm told that in his prison cell, Clint Eastwood does a lot of push-ups.
Okay. I'm impressed.
That's the reference. That's why he was telling Gus to do push-ups. I don't know. I think it would have made sense to someone who has watched that movie. Probably Drew. Drew probably would have laughed at that.
So...
Bum, 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 husband.
So Sean's big idea is for Gus to call as bait for the goth bro on the helpline because, I don't know, Sean's already suspicious of him. And he just wants to go over there and, like, hang out and be nebby and watch while Gus makes this call from their office.
Gus told Sean that Sean needs to be the one to make the phone call. And Sean said, "No one's going to believe that I'm depressed. Come on." And I wrote, "Boo, masking."
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, I noticed that too. I was like, for one, that's probably how he actually sees it, how that character would see it. But it's just like, yeah, people do mask. Like, I mean, and there can be other extenuating circumstances. Look at Robin Williams. He was actually suffering from, like, a rare form of, like, lesions on his brain. But he was masking a lot of his depression issues with his zany, high-energy humor. And it's distraction. It's people asking about you and not talking about themselves and not drawing attention and not telling you about their problems. So get woke, Sean. Get woke.
Yeah. I'm happy to share my mental health story with anyone who wants to hear it, but I masked for a really, really long time. People who knew me really, really well wouldn't have guessed that I was depressed, but I was.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%.
Because that's who we are. Yeah. But I was really, really good at hiding it, and that's yeah, get woke. I agree.
Maybe we should just start saying wake up because it's like about dang time.
But Gus said, "I don't even know what I would say." And Sean goes, "Hello, my name is Gus. I have a deep-seated jealousy for a tiny little boy cat."
I knew you were going to quote that exactly. I just could feel it coming.
Well, I took your advice this time, and I watched the episode to enjoy it, and then I watched the episode for notes, and it was a huge help.
Right?
I think that's what I'm going to do from now on.
It's a really nice vibe. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just enjoying this. And then when I'm watching it the second time, I notice so many little things. Yeah.
So when John walks into the 100 stress line, he brings Terrence, who he calls Big T, a coconut with a straw in it and a bow on it. Why? I don't know.
It's tropical and fun. Yeah, Terrence, Big T. He hates Sean.
Oh, yeah.
So Rory actually gets to talking with Sean and divulges some stuff to him. And he says he's working at 1-800 Stress Line as community service. He got 250 hours for this whole assault thing because he really got into it with this guy who hated his poetry. And, like, It's like it's such a big part of his identity that he's like too precious about it, which if you're going to be an artist, dude, you just got to get a thicker skin. Not everyone's going to like your poetry. This is coming from someone who did poetry as their senior thesis. Come at me.
Gus calls and specifically asks for Rory so that Sean can observe. And while Gus is on the line, Rory is actually talking him into more depression or more stress.
Yeah, into like darker corners, because I wrote Gus on line 6. He's like, all right, so you're experiencing some career and personal stress?
And then he said,
oh, do you have a girlfriend?
Oh, ultimately they decide that pharmaceutical sales is not sexy and that he only has one non-work friend.
Yeah, but Rory keeps pushing areas like, does that ever give you dark thoughts? And Gus is like, well, how dark do you mean? And it just keeps escalating, and
I think right after that, Rory said, suicide is not the answer. And Gus goes, suicide? I wasn't talking about suicide. I just said I needed a new hobby, like coin collecting or something at the beach. I like water activities. And Rory goes, like drowning?
Your face was so good. That eyebrow was on point. I was like, because after, like, the breakdown with Sean in the closet afterwards, because Sean is like, what the heck was all that about? And Gus says, yeah, I'm majorly creeped out, dude. But that's when we get the pharmaceutical sales not sexy. And I was like, look, big pharma, definitely not sexy. But making medicine affordable and available, Gus, you sexy, sexy boy.
Pharmaceuticals. I'm just going to keep saying that in different tunes.
And Sean is looking at his watch, and then he sees the police arrive. So he's been waiting on them. He's known they would, like, catch up eventually.
Lassie walks up to Rory, grabs his eyeliner, and goes, what's this? Did you know that our most recent victim's suicide note was written in black eyeliner? I'm like, how circumstantial is that, Lassie? Like, I've got black eyeliner, you gonna arrest me?
Yeah, but also Lassie reveals that he was the arresting officer for Rory's assault charge. So it's personal because Lassie is a crazy person.
He notices that Rory has his headphones in, and he thinks that Rory is listening to metal music, like we saw in the car 1144.
What in the heck is this player that Laster starts waving around? Is that like a vintage iHome or something?
That's exactly what it is. It's a dock. Okay, but I have to point this out. So he's got a dock, and he has his headphones plugged into the dock. And when Gus Lassie, when Lassie unplugs them, Up and Away starts playing. But there's no iPod in the dock. So there shouldn't be any music coming out of it at all because there's nothing there.
I could not get a good enough look at this thing because he's like waving it around, and I was like, is that what that's supposed to be? Why would he be listening to that with headphones?
I only know that because we have one, because we old. And
I used to, but mine looked slightly different.
Where you plug the phone in or the
where you dock the
iPod, whatever,
yeah.
iPod, thank you. Where you dock that, we have a Bluetooth adapter, so we can hook ours up to Bluetooth now. But we still have a dock like that, and that's why I knew what that was. And I was like, that's where something should be, and there was nothing there. I was like, oh my goodness gracious.
So,
also, I really like that song.
what is that from?
It was a 70s song, Up and Away.
Oh, it sounded like, okay, that tracks, because I was like, Godspell? I don't know.
Lassie called it This Noise, and then Rory called it That Crap. And I was like, neither of those are accurate definitions of that song. That song is delightful.
Rory says that crap is all he listens to, and that is what inspires his poetry. And I was like, bruh, the 70s are a lot of things. They're not super poetic.
They arrest Rory.
And
right?
Sean is nonplussed. Like, he's like, this is not clicking into place. But he casts his eye out the window and he sees someone up on the phone pole, and things start clicking into place for Sean. He's like, phone service schedule, maybe that lines up with dates. This is someone who would have access to calls. So in the next scene, we see them in the dark at the phone pole. The cat's just chilling in the grass, just like watching their shenanigans, and he's forcing Gus to climb the pole, which sounds
Because you're a climbing machine, Gus.
Oh, but as he's climbing, Sean notices the oil mark on Gus's shoe looks just like what he saw in the 1144 apartment. He notices the rungs, I guess, that Gus is climbing on looks like the key holder in Hildenbach's apartment. So he's like, wait a second, this guy? Is this guy the one who works for the phone company? His brother was the first one to die. Is that what set all this off? Was he the first victim? Like, how far does this go? They get a hold of, like, the little, what is it, like, the utility phone?
Yeah, which they wouldn't just, like, leave attached to the phone pole.
Right, but lucky oversight.
Yeah. Okay. We'll call it a lucky oversight instead of a plot hole. They end up listening to the phone because Sean thinks that the last person who called the 1-800 stress line is likely going to be the next victim. And
Dun, dun, dun!
it's Buzz.
It's little sweet Buzzy McNabb, and we hear his outgoing message. Sean immediately uses the utility phone to call the chief. Then I wrote, showdown. Because the Santa Barbara Police Department and Sean converge on Buzz McNabb's apartment building, and we get the steely blue gaze. Arms locked, aimed, loaded, ready. Carlton Lassiter. He looks so good in this scene.
They ask Buzz what he was doing calling the stress line or why he was calling the stress line or something. And he said, I was just looking for a little advice. No one else would talk to me.
And they all...
And he death stares Lassie, and then everybody death stares Lassie. But I'm not going to lie. If one of my subordinates came up to me and wanted to talk to me about sex on their wedding night, I probably wouldn't talk to them either.
I don't have subordinates, but...
I don't either, but still.
Oh, yeah, he's not a paternal figure, so he wasn't there for Buzz.
They're trying to talk Hildenbach out of shooting Buzz, and Sean starts by pointing out that Gus has his own issues. And so Hildenbach turns and puts the gun on Gus. And Gus slowly steps behind Sean. And then Sean said, I'm crazy too. And then Gus slowly steps out from behind Sean. And that, I mean, it was those little things like that in that scene that made me really happy.
At one point, he, like, walks out of frame, and then I was like, is he gonna come up behind that guy? Where did Gus go? He just, like, walked out of the scene.
They end up making another hair joke with Lassiter, and Sean said, you have only one thing to be worried about, and that's this man right here. Not only is he a fine human being with a strong Irish hairline.
I love a man with a strong brow line. And the way he's just, like, glaring through the sight, like, down the shaft of that pistol, I can't say, I'm thirsty today or something. Like, I can't say words without being like, that sounds suggestive, but I think it's just me.
Hildenbach's gun is on Sean. All of SBPD's guns are on Hildenbach. And Buzz is standing there in his underwear with his hands up. Now, I am not trying to say that in Buzz's position I would have felt any differently, but I went through run, hide, fight training, which is a lot less than what police officers go
Judo
through.
chop!
Yeah!
Like, right to the neck.
Hildenbach was not paying attention whatsoever to Buzz. Buzz easily could have grabbed that gun. When I worked in the residence halls, now, my boss was like CIA Black Ops before he moved into Res Life. And so he trained us to do crap like that. But, like, we went through that training as RAs. We went through run, hide, fight training where they were like, if an active shooter happens, you have to fight back. You need to look at what weapons you have with you. And I'm like, come on, Buzz. But I guess it's easier to say when I'm not in that situation. Also, Buzz is a fictional character, so...
It's pretty dark, but I'm always like, yes, I need more training. Yes, I would carry a weapon with me. I don't want a gun. I don't feel that way about it. But, like, for the world we live in, for the reality of it, I'm just like, I would carry an extendable baton I have a stun gun. Like, that's the reality
I
of
have a
our
lot of bowls
lives.
on my desk, and there was a very short period of time right after I went through, it's called Alice training. That was what I went through as a full time. But after I went through Alice training, there was a 2 month period of time where I kept a cast iron skillet behind my desk with me. Because like
Oh,
both defense and offense, right? Think about Tangled.
right.
That was her favorite
Yeah.
weapon. And then all of the other people started using them.
I mean, I would say like people hate the trope where, a woman grabs something to use as a weapon and it's like something domestic like a broom or a pan. And I'm like, look, something you're used to holding, used to wielding, know the weight of, that's going to be your most effective weapon in real life or during the zombie apocalypse. I'm just like, use what you know. And if you happen to be a person who sticks around a kitchen like you or I, not because we're women, but because we love delicious flavor,
Because we are fans of delicious flavor.
absolutely. But it's like, yeah, I would feel most comfortable probably wielding one of my pans or winging one
Mm-hmm.
of my kitchen knives more than anything that would like probably do more damage just because I know what I'm doing
Well,
with
don't
those.
worry, Buzz, because Little Boy Cat run, hide, fight. And Little Boy Cat hops on Hildenbach's back and takes him down to the ground.
He knows what he did.
Because he was there when Hildenbach did not 1144, but murdered his owner.
Literally held a gun to the man's head and forced him to overuse medication. And it's terrible. And I'm glad the cat got his little bit of retribution. I wrote Buzz is saved. Also, his real name, quote unquote real name, but name as of IMDb is Sage Brocklebank.
Oh.
And I wrote he's a Ryan Murphy type.
Finally, after they end up cuffing Hildenbach, Lassie said, "That was adequate, Spencer."
Oh, hot dang. High frickin' praise.
So, do you think that the only reason why Lassiter ended up saying that was because Sean's way of slowing down Hildenbach was by complimenting Lassiter?
I don't know. I think he just like respected that he kept the situation de-escalated long enough for something to work to their advantage.
Like a little boy cat.
Like a little boy cat.
Buzz is about to get married, and Gus, no, my gosh, Sean is trying to figure out what to give Buzz for his wedding gift. And he goes, "And the chief already got you an asparagus steamer, so I will give you the little boy cat." Now, I actually wrote, "Who steams asparagus? WTF." There are 152 better ways to cook asparagus than steaming it.
Yes, but I mean, like, if you don't steam it too much and make it mushy, and it's just like that brighter green and still crisp, I can see it. It's not what I do either. But I
Good.
mean, yeah. Good.
Good. I wasn't sure if we could keep being friends / doing this podcast.
Girlfriend, do you know how many vegetables I have to eat? I do them the right way.
They give little boy cat to Buzz,
Hmm.
and we end up with Sean and Gus at at psych office eating soup.
I'm deciphering your own shorthand here.
Yes. Gus is trying to cheer himself up. And as he's trying to cheer himself up, he's like, "Yeah, you might be my only friend outside of work, but you're my best friend. And how many best friends does a guy need?" And Sean goes, "Yeah, it's all about the attitude, Gus. You got this."
I love it. Gus tells a great story about him getting complimented about how he looks so handsome carrying his pharmaceutical case. I love it.
Then Gus pours his last bowl of cereal, and the magic mood ring does not fall out of the box.
And then he looks at the bottom of the box and it appears open.
I timed this out. I had a bowl, you had a bowl, I had a bowl, you had a bowl, and then I get the ring.
Oh, snap.
Sean is like, what happened to that attitude, Gus? What happened to that pride, that happiness?" And Gus just sticks his finger in Sean's bowl of cereal and walks away. But then Sean picks up Gus's bowl of cereal and starts eating it with Gus's spoon.
I'm
Now,
eating yours.
Kaylee, don't get me wrong. I get that people eat after one another. But why was he so freaked out about the dude sticking his finger in his bowl of cereal? But then Not only did he go on to eat after him, but he ended up using Gus's spoon. He didn't even keep his own spoon. Does that make any sense to you?
It was a spite eating of the delicious cereal.
But he could have used his own spoon. Right?
I mean, I guess, but is it important at that point? Because it's been submerged in the same milk you're about to eat the cereal out of, so like,
Well, yeah, okay. But what's the difference between that and a finger? I mean, I don't know. I got really confused by that for some reason. And we end up with our beautiful end credits.
Okay, so I have one more fun fact for you. This episode takes place, I think they filmed it sometime around 2006. And in 2008, the guy who plays Wes Hildenbach was in an episode of Criminal Minds. He played roughly the same character. His brother had died, but I think in this one, he had killed him instead of his brother having 1144'd and that setting him off. In that one, I think his brother was his first victim, and then his MO was to make his murders look like 1144s, and something called like an Angel of Mercy killer, where he felt like these people were in so much pain that he was ending their suffering.
Okay.
And I do want to say that he does talk about his brother as being weak, and it appears that like he had an emotional psychotic break when his brother 1144'd, but he does refer to the people he's murdering as being weak and basically deserving to be murdered. And I'd like to point out that he's the villain here. Okay, he's the bad guy.
So don't listen to him.
Don't listen to him.
Because he's full of crap.
He's full of crap, and I think that's what we all need to take away from that. That one, I mean, it's heavy to talk about. It's heavier than I think I wanted it to be to talk about.
You and I went pretty deep on our, just because we have to talk about 1144, it doesn't mean we can't support people who might be struggling with 1144.
Right, because that's not a joke. Like, I mean, I get people were being murdered and it was being camouflaged, and, you know, the police were taking it seriously as tragic 1144s, and, you know, Jules made a good point of that, and she's like, as sad as it is, it does happen. We do have to deal with that reality. But in this case, it simply wasn't true, and Sean got to the truth.
And don't listen to the murderers because they're dumb. This has been... Actually, do we have anything else?
I don't. You?
I don't either.
Cool.
This has been...
To the Blueberry!
I'm Alexis. What in the name of sweet justice are you two doing in this crime scene?
And I'm Kaylee. Dude, he put you on the creepy train, headed for Creepy Island, where the creepy natives drink creepy nectar out of the creepy coconuts.
And this has been To the Blueberry!
Psych out.